further engineers marching out for Uncle Sam. And we see again a frame rate drop. I'm not entirely sure what's going on with those. Can apparently be the relic downloader again. Could it be something else? I'm not sure. Hang on, let's alt. This makes no sense at all. There seems to be some sort of thing where the game just suddenly drops in frame rate for no apparent reason, but as soon as I alt tab, it fixes itself up, so there'll probably be some small jittery bits. To try to keep this up. There's apparently no rhyme or reason to this, as I usually have absolutely no problems with this, but it's getting a bit hot at the moment and I'd rather just keep on going. But I'll try to make up with this with another replay tonight, not the one with 4 years, but another little game of mine which might have some fun bits. And we do see the first ranger team going up. This is also usually something you see if someone goes for heavy support elements, and a German pack is in the hands of the Americans. But they usually try to go for some other doctrinal infantry to then make up for their own lack of infantry. In this case, Rangers. Usually you might also see airborne, that's also something. And you usually see it also repeated by the Germans via the Blitzkrieg doctrine, in which case they'll use stormtroopers to make up for their infantry lack. And we see the Sturm Armory coming out, and 2 Stuks. That's quite a lot of Stuk. And further Rangers marching in, tearing apart these Volksgrenadiers, and they are moving close. Bazookas flying away. One Volksgrenadier barely getting out there. This position is certainly quite exposed. Not entirely sure why this MG42 is not pointing in this direction. Instead, it seems to be pointing in this. Rather, you want it in this direction, since, well, that's where the Americans are actually coming from. Volksgrenadiers acting as a sort of side and guard, but the Americans don't really care about that, going through the west. And now moving closer again, this MG42 is pointing in the wrong direction. Right direction, wrong direction. Please point it that way, Vonvwesterwald. And Rangers moving in. Grenadiers though coming out from the medic bunker, but it's taken bazooka rockets. And these Grenadiers need to be maneuvered right in here, for example, to take up position on these Rangers. But apparently Vonvwesterwald seems to have a bit of trouble, instead just equipping them with a Panzerschreck and then proceeding to do nothing with them. Stuk moving in. Stuk nicely illuminated by this afternoon sun, it seems. And this bunker is continuing to take fire. Stuk, will it fire? No, it did not manage. And we see a mortar team nearby, but that was really poorly coordinated. And now dual Panzerschreck for those Grenadiers, apparently hoping for some sort of heavy armor push. And of course, this is certainly what you expected, but of course it doesn't know. We also see that this pack will of course probably be a bit of a nuisance to the Wehrmacht, as it will certainly be able to ride the Americans with some anti-tank assets. And this medic bunker will be in dire need of repairs, or it would have been. It wasn't for the fact a single mortar round knocked it out. Grenadiers with Panzerschrecks going to hold the line. Won't be that effective against Rangers in particular, since they'll also be in range of this mortar. Stuks moving ahead, preparing to open fire with their guns. Numerous Stuks, in fact. I wonder if there will be any more. Let's have a look. A Nebelwerfer instead, and do see the Krieg barracks up, but no, nothing coming out of it. Plenty of fuel, plenty of manpower. Now the Stuks are crawling out, ready to open fire on those Yankees. And I see something right there. First Sherman on the field, M4 Sherman, workhorse of the American Armored Division, ready to support the 29th Infantry Division. American Infantry Divisions actually having their own armored regiments, which was not something, say, German infantry actually had. They didn't even really have their own tank destroyers or Stuks. Always some had, some others did not. Most, in fact, did not. And some had Martyrs, and most had to rely on packs. It's actually a bit confusing. But there we go, one Stuk knocked out. They rushed in without any support. A bit of a bad idea, certainly not proper Stuk tactics. Getting knocked out by all of these bazookas, exposing the rear. Oh dear. That rhymed, by the way. And Sherman now moving in for the kill with these Rangers. And of course this pack is certainly helping, knocking out one Stuk. And there we go. Stuk out of control. Absolutely horrific. And we have the first Nebel barrage of the day, blasting away hoping to hit something and forcing these Rangers into a full retreat. Floating a bit of fuel and manpower, but nothing really else. Rangers healing up, and we do see 3 Rangers. That's certainly quite a bit of Rangers. Already one solid squad from the 6th Ranger Regiment. Rangers lead the way. Floating a bit of manpower and fuel, though I'm not entirely sure this is a good idea. And there's certainly one thing that certainly could be a bit improved upon here is perhaps his reaction time. And now getting veterancy 1 for a lot of things. I'm a bit mystified on that. In particular since he doesn't really actually have any vehicles at the moment. And he's still not getting any Stooks, Pumas or anything to actually replace what he has lost. I mean, yes, strategy and tactic are important, but you still need to have actually the impetus, the motivation, the... what is it? Right, I can't remember the word now. Motion, I suppose, the initiative you really need. Oh, momentum, there we go. He needs to keep up the momentum, and there really doesn't seem to happen there. Just seems like something happens and then he sort of lets go. There doesn't seem to be any follow-up, for example here with those grenadiers right here. Didn't take cover, they just stood around. Seems to have lost the grenadiers. What? Yes, indeed, he's lost those grenadiers with 2 Panzerwrecks. That's pretty bad. And sort of same thing applies to here, but he seems certainly a bit more aggressive, and Volksgrenadiers just standing out in the open with MP40s, and these not being pulled back for reinforcements. I'm certainly not a good sign. We do see a observation post going up on this munitions point, a Stug on the way, and Nebelwerfer firing away. Probably these Rangers trying to deter them. Rangers do get away, but will it be in time? Yes, indeed, it seems like a lot of the Nebelwerfer rockets actually hit right in the same spot. Fresh Stugs on the way, and veterancy 1 being given for most of the units, mostly just giving a bit of health regeneration, except for the Stug, which will take a little less damage. And Rangers now taking the central victory point, and apparently very little response from Mr. Vonvwesterwald. Mortar rounds going in, all nice and dandy, but really a lot of Rangers against these few Volksgrenadiers. Why isn't he moving in these? And why is that MG42 still pointing in that direction? Stug now maneuvering in. And Americans going for another munitions point. Again, it seems a bit unsure what he seems to be doing. Volksgrenadiers now moving in. One getting knocked out with a bazooka rocket. Horrific. And we see the Sherman moving in. MG42 firing away at these engineers, but not really doing much. The Sherman are also getting the 50 caliber mounted gunner upgrade right into the line of fire after pack, and the Stug Sherman taking quite a lot of damage. Volksgrenadiers forced to retreat in the face of these Rangers with Thompson submachine guns, aka the Tommy gun. And the Stug apparently does not continue hunting down these Volksgrenadiers. Need to get out of there, Mr. Vonvwesterwald. Get out of there, please retreat those Volksgrenadiers instead of getting them killed. And apparently he's not listening. He certainly seems to be lacking a bit in that oversight ability, the ability to really keep track of what's going on and coordinating all of his efforts, as his Volksgrenadiers certainly seem to be moving on their own without any real support. The Stug apparently not really doing much. And this MG42 firing away, and these Rangers do manage to catch some of them outside the cover, but the Rangers are rather close and will be able to clear out some of the gunners. Pack now getting outmaneuvered. Volksgrenadiers, mortar and Nebelwerfer perilously close and unsupported. Rangers running right under the treads of the Stug. And we do see these Rangers not really pulling out, and some of you will be asking, well, why are you showing this game? This is certainly not professional, and yes, indeed it is not. But I do believe it does showcase some of the things that can be possibly going wrong for some of the newer players. That is, they need to get really that rather grasp of the battlefield. They need to coordinate their efforts. They need to really keep the pressure up, the momentum going, and of course not digging in like this. I mean, and certainly that also seems to be what Mr. Vonvwesterwald is doing to a certain degree. He's just sitting back and enjoying a bit of coffee or something. I'm not quite sure. And he's suffering rather heavily for this. A mortar team being sent right to the front without any support. That's also generally what you call a bad idea, and packed firing away in support of them. And these Volksgrenadiers are quick to try and rush in and try to clear out this mortar. Not much luck, and a fresh bunker going up. And veteran 2 going in for the armor and the infantry, and these Volksgrenadiers really need to get a move on back to the front instead of enjoying their spot of tea right there. Pioneers still being there after having finished this observation post. And we do see some Rangers marching forwards. And Spartakus does seem to be catching up the momentum himself after digging in so heavily. Now he's just pressing onwards towards Vonvwesterwald and really causing Vonvwesterwald some heavy losses without Vonvwesterwald seemingly being able to respond back. Machine guns now being equipped for the Stug and other armor. Nebelwerfer cleared out by mortar fire. That's certainly not happy. And Rangers seizing up one mortar while the other is still crewed by the original crew firing away as well. And Volksgun is looking to apparently waltz right into the line of mortar fire. No further armor from the Americans. The Germans still receiving repairs. Veteran 1 meaning increased speed, and further Rangers moving to the front. And my goodness, what is that? Again, it just seems to be doing that. Now gaining a lot of frame rate again, so I'm not entirely sure what's going on there. I do apologize, my dear viewers, and I shall of course try to endeavor that won't happen again. And there we go again, and now a stabilization. I'm not entirely sure what's going on. And Rangers sneaking in from the east, going to clear out this MG42. And again, I do apologize for all of these interruptions. Not entirely sure, but at least frame rate frames does show me what's going on with frame rate at least. And now Rangers coming under fire, taking a rather exposed lot and moving in from the rear as well. This Stug is really needing to get out of there. A lot of munitions. He could easily have used a propaganda war to clear out some of the Rangers, but apparently he's not doing it. Oh goodness gracious, Vonvwesterwald. Do try and use some of those resources you do have. Try to coordinate it. Pioneers apparently repairing this Stug. He does have a repair bunker set up, but I can't see those repair pioneers. Oh, there we go, right behind it. But really, he needs to really use those abilities and really use those resources instead of floating. Let's have a look at Mr. Spartakus, who on the other hand isn't really floating as many resources and certainly not as much manpower or munitions. And certainly seems to be pushing onwards. Volksgrenadiers charging in, some not quite full. Mortar firing away in support, and these Volksgrenadiers apparently the only real infantry team of the Wehrmacht, and now retreating in full, leaving again the Stug behind to somehow hold the line. Oh goodness gracious, Vonvwesterwald. Still nothing from the Sturm Armory, and still, oh my goodness, close to 1,000 manpower, 150 fuel, and 500 munitions. I mean, not even a single propaganda war, not attempted using Firestorm, and, well, not even a Goliath. I would certainly recommend for Mr. Vonvwesterwald, if he does notice this, is try and improve his sort of strategic grasp on things, keep up the logistics, keep pushing troops out. I mean, he really has a lot of population cap, but he's not really doing much of anything. I mean, I rarely see his hand anywhere, and he just seems a bit passively. And now you see a Volksgrenadier